why most get it wrong with gaming and esports, and how to fix it.
I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Clinton Sparks. I'm a Grammy-nominated multi-platinum producer, songwriter, DJ. I sold over 75 million records. I've authored a few books. I've built a few brands. Me and my buddy right here, Darren, if you guys ever heard of a company called FaZe Clan, if you know about gaming, we took that company from zero to a $1 billion IPO. So I just wanted you guys to know who we are, so when we start talking, you understand that we know what we're talking about up here, and we know the cool shit when it comes to gaming. So when we're talking, we understand the culture, we understand the marketing, we understand building the brands, we understand how to integrate companies that don't understand gaming. That's what we do. So you guys understand the context before we start talking. Thank you for that applause. I appreciate you all.
All right. A little bit of not as exciting as Clinton's history.
Why don't you stand up there? Let them see your body.
As Clinton said, I was the former chief talent officer at FaZe Clan for the last 4.5 years. Before that, I was an executive at United Talent Agency as well as Disney. Hello, hello. There you go. We want to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the esports industry. How many of you guys actually have been following what's been going on around the industry as it relates to orgs, leagues, all of that, the sustainability? Anyone following that right now? One show of hand, two. Are you guys following what's going on with FaZe Clan specifically? So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well.
Not them particularly.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is try to identify what people are doing wrong in the gaming industry and what they should be doing right in the gaming industry. There's a big disconnect for those that don't have an authentic footprint or understanding the gaming industry, which, by the way, is different than esports. Does everybody understand that esports and gaming are two separate things? Hand in the air if you understand. All right, most of you don't, apparently. So let me explain the difference, because a lot of people get this wrong and they mix them as if they're the same thing, but they're not. Am I right, Darren?
Absolutely correct.
So esports is professionally structured, organized leagues and teams that practice every day, have a manager, they compete with each other in tournaments to win money. Correct?
Correct.
Gaming is everything else besides that. Gaming is playing Donkey Kong or Mario Brothers or Street Fighter or Call of Duty or 2K with your friends, and the lifestyle that all comes with being a gamer. So those are the two big differences between esports and gaming that most people make a mistake and don't understand that they're two separate things. And you need to distinguish the difference between those if you're trying to connect to gamers, right? You don't say, hey, we want to have an esports initiative when you're trying to talk to the billions of gamers, which is much bigger than esports, which is a very niche down community that doesn't make a lot of money. But gaming makes a lot of money. So if you're trying to make a lot of money, then you want to connect and talk to the gaming community, not just the esports community. Am I right, Darren?
I think it's a good segue to actually some of the topics of what's actually been going on and why it's going in the way that it is. And Clinton talked a little bit about a couple of those things, but I think there's 3 distinguishing factors that is going on right now. I would like to talk a little bit about what's going on with the actual publishers themselves and how they actually create, develop, run, organize the leagues and where that's going. I also want to talk a little bit about the organizations themselves. We mentioned FaZe Clan, but as Clinton said, it's not just on one org, but the entire industry at large and why there's an issue there. And of course, what's going on in the talent world. And when I mean in talent, similar to what Clinton said, there's a difference between the talent and the streamers and then also the competitive esports pros. And like Clinton said, a lot of people are getting it wrong. And also the people endemically to the gaming and esports community are also getting it wrong, which is why we are in the place that we are.
Should we talk about how they're getting it wrong?
Absolutely. So let's just talk about the first topic, which is the publishers and the leagues that I had mentioned. If you guys are not familiar with how that works, it's not like traditional sports. The developers and the publishers own the leagues, they control the leagues, and there also is a hefty fee for any orgs to be a part of those leagues. And the teams that are a part of those leagues do not participate in the overall revenue that the publishers do. So there presents a viability issue there that a lot of esports orgs just didn't really think about, and why a lot of esports orgs are either pulling themselves out of certain leagues, they're not participating in it at all, or they're not signing certain players to participate in certain titles. One of those titles right now is Fortnite. For a lot of people here, Fortnite probably is still a very popular game amongst your kids, but in terms of popularity, in terms of viewership, in terms of the amount of eyeballs on Fortnite competitive scene, it has drastically changed in just a short 2 to 3 years. So it's something to really think about. And then of course the talent themselves, a lot of people had invested a lot of time, a lot of money into esports thinking that they were going to be the ones to propel it forward. But if you're following the industry right now, what's going on is a lot of the streamers and the personalities are the ones that are driving it forward. So those are kind of the three things that a lot of people over the last, I guess, 5 to 10 years even are getting it wrong, and are still getting it wrong to this day. And that's why you see major A-tier orgs really struggle with their business right now. And so there needs to be a change. The honeymoon phase is over. And yeah, there's a lot to be said there.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty obvious to people here that there's a lot that is not happening the right way, that there's a disconnect, and there's a lot of people that don't understand how to connect with the gaming community or the gamers. I think we all know that, and I think that's everyone's intention or efforts to try to expand and elevate their own brand. But one thing I will say is that you can't get mad. Well, first, everybody in here has their marketing plans or their ideas on how they're going to go to market, how they're going to build communities, how they're going to talk to people in the gaming community so they can start gamifying their products. And the problem is that most people just don't simply know how to connect to that culture or that audience, right? So you can't get mad when people don't listen when you talk. You must learn to talk when people are listening, where they're listening, how they're listening, why they're listening. So I go to these conferences all the time and I hear people, really smart people, talk about their companies, and it's all like-minded people kind of in here like, yeah, why doesn't anybody get our industry? Why isn't anybody connecting? Our product is so spectacular. Why don't they get it? It's not they don't get it. You don't know how to make them get it. You don't know how to communicate to them. You don't know what they care about. You're not selling a product. You're not selling a service. You're selling a feeling. And once you understand the feeling that you have to make these people feel or care enough to know how they feel, that's how you can start talking to them. So I've been in so many companies where you have people in the C-suite, the CEO, the CMO, they have all these plans, but they were never the audience that they're trying to get to. They don't know how to talk to them. They don't understand them. To be honest, they don't care about them. It's just money to them, right? So how do we get them to spend? Well, give a shit about them. How do we do that? Actually give a shit, right? And most people don't. They're just like, how do we make money? How does this company turn into transactions? How do we get people to deposit? How do we get people? Well, the first thing you got to do is how do you get people to care? And it starts with you caring. And when you care about the audience you're trying to go after, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, they're going to believe you. And now they're going to start understanding and listening to you because they can tell that you actually care and you're connecting and relating to them in an authentic way that means something to them. But most companies don't take the time to actually wonder and research what moves the needle for these people. And gaming is such a massive industry. It's not like it's not like music. It's not like influencers who are just like, oh, let's just give them $100,000 and they're going to promote us to all their friends. Or let's go get a celebrity endorsement and now that should make us win. That's old. That's played out now. When you want to integrate into audiences, into communities, you can't stand for culture if you never stood in culture. So when you're building a company, one of the most important things you got to do is bring people in that actually know the audience that you're trying to go after. And I don't know who said this, but if there's CEOs or CMOs here, one piece of advice I'll say to you is let the plumber plumb. When you hire somebody that's great at what they do, let them be great at what they do. People up the top always want to try to control them and tell them, well, how are we going to make money? That's how you make money today to this audience, to gamers, is you have to connect with them because they can smell you a mile away when you're just trying to utilize them to make money.
Absolutely, and I think that is one of the largest things that I believe is a pitfall to where this is all going is authenticity, right? A lot of brands coming in, a lot of VCs, a lot of money, they just don't really understand gaming. And a perfect example of this is how many of you guys actually saw the announcement with the Olympics and eSports? Did you guys hear about it? Not really? Did? So the Olympics recently announced that there would be an eSports component to the games. If you looked at the list of what those eSports are, you can tell by whoever was a part of that community did not understand anything about gaming or eSports. In that list of eSports gaming for the Olympics, it's things like fencing and bowling and traditional Olympic sports that have no business currently or have an audience for that, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they could be communicated in such a way that could ease in the casual gamers to say this is a part of gaming. But as Clinton said, they probably should have consulted people within the gaming and esports world to say, how do we do this right? How do we market this and make people understand? But what the Olympics just did was probably took 10 steps back of where we're supposed to go. So it is happening at all levels of this business right now. And I think, as Clinton said, the people that do know this best are the gamers themselves. Unfortunately, for the last 10 years, a lot of these gamers didn't really have business acumen either. So there was kind of a catch-22 of who's going to actually be the grown-ups wearing the big boy pants to take it to the future. And I think for the last 5 years, it couldn't really be figured out. It's hitting a wall, and like I said, the honeymoon phase is over. I think people are definitely seeing where the cracks are. They're getting smarter, and I do believe that the next generation of gamers that understand both the business and the authentic side of gaming are going to be leading the next generation.
Is there anybody here that's from one of these companies here that's looking to try to figure out how to connect with the billions of gamers around the world? Is anybody here? Hand in the air? All right. I'm going to ask you a question. What is your biggest hurdle, or why do you feel it's difficult to connect with the actual gaming community, and what kind of business do you have?
We have one of the biggest NGOs. We try to connect all NGOs around the world. Basically, we want to try to create community around the world and make people through a gamification help the planet. This is it.
So what's the problem? Why aren't you able to talk to the gamers?
Basically, we are creating our AR or own video game or mobile game. So basically, we don't know how the gamers think. Yeah, what they like. So basically, we create some sample, and now we put it them, and we're waiting for a feedback.
All right, so, damn. Why did I get so loud? Oh, because he was low. All right, so, the irony in what he just said is, hey, we're going to start this thing for this community, but we don't know this community, right? Does that sound like it's backwards? That's the problem, right? You're making something that you feel like this is game-changing, this is great. How many times have you hear AI, crypto, NFTs? How many times have you heard that in this conference, right? It's all you hear. And you guys all get it. That's why you're all here. You know who's not here? The audience that doesn't get it, right? So you have to take what you know and understand how to communicate that, how to translate that. And you can't build a business for an audience when you don't know the audience. It's like opening a pizza shop in a place where nobody even eats pizza. And you're like, how do I get people here to have my spectacular pizza? Well, you probably should have thought about the right place to build pizza where people like pizza, and then know how to promote and talk to people that like pizza. So it's the same thing. You have to understand how to go to them, because they're not going to come to you. And you have to have the right people in your company, and it has to be part of the strategy of building the product from the beginning. You can't build the product. It's not, we will build it and they will come. Because especially the young generation now, they don't think they need it. They don't know what they need. And you might have the most groundbreaking product or platform, but they don't care because you don't know how to make them care. They can care. It's not that there's no opportunity to care, but you have to understand them to know why they would care. Does it make sense? I don't hear anybody out here. All right, I want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. You want to wrap this up, Darren?
Yeah. Actually, I just want to say one more thing and to put that in context, actually. So over the last, I guess, 2 to 3 years being at FaZe Clan, I was able to be a part of some of the most monumental partnerships and brand collaborations in this industry. But what Clinton also said was absolutely true. I saw some of the biggest dollars close at our business, and then next year, the same brands would exit the entire industry entirely or switch their entire thinking. It is because they didn't do the due diligence or they didn't have the authenticity or has someone to consult on how to do this. And I've seen a lot of AAA brands take a step back and be like, you know what, I'm going to hold on to these dollars, see how esports and gaming structure out, and see where I'm going to place these dollars. And I would say in the last 6 months, a lot of these same brands now have figured out we are not going to be spending with organizations, we're going to be spending it with the talent. And that's both a good and a bad thing, because I do believe that there is a benefit and a future for organizations. They just need to switch the value prop for the talent. But currently the talent have the audience, they have the viewership, and brands think that that is a safer place to be. Also, some of these talents and personalities are not just competitive pro players or gamers. They're streamers, just chatting, IRL. They're all of the encompassing digital world, and all the things that they create is now funneled into gaming. So another thing as well is the talent within the gaming and esports industry is evolving. They can't just be great at gaming anymore. They have to be great content creators. They have to be great marketers on top of being great gaming to even being the part of the conversation. So a lot of that has changed within the last year.
Let me ask you a question, because you're very engaged. If you seen a girl that you liked, and you're like, hey, I'm attracted to her, think I want to ask her on a date, are you going to go buy her a house and a Lamborghini before you go on that date? Before you go and meet them? Before you understand who she is, what she likes, what's her history? If you're compatible, you're not going to do that. But people do that with their businesses every day. They don't understand. So they'll hear keywords, or they'll be tricked, or they'll be like, we know we got to get in this space. There's a lot of money, a lot of people over here that can make us money. Let's just throw our whole marketing spend at this. And then 6 months later, you're mad at other people in the company, not yourself. You're mad at other people like, man, we're blowing all this money. We got to cut the budget back. Well, that was on you guys, man, for making that decision to do that in the first place, because you didn't do enough research to realize what you should have done with that budget and who you should have did it with. So now the next question is going to be like, all right, Clinton, since you know it all, then how do we make these wise decisions? Who do we spend that money with, right? We only have 1 minute left, so I couldn't answer that fully. But what I will say and suggest is don't put the cart before the horse. Part of your plan in building your product or your service is understanding the community and the audience and the need and who needs this product. Not just because you think it's great. There's people that already exist. If you're trying to elevate the industry, you're trying to get into new markets, new audiences, you must understand they're not going to just come because you spent a shit ton of money on ads. They don't care. We're sick of ads. People don't want to look at ads. Do you want to look at ads? Nobody wants to look at ads. Matter of fact, when you're on YouTube, you're pissed off when the ads come on. So when you're sitting there spending money on ads, you're like, oh man, we just spent $1 million on YouTube. You mean you just blew $1 million on YouTube? Because you weren't paying attention to the audience and the crowd, and you weren't delivering your message in a way that they're going to understand. If you want them to understand you, you must first understand them. And then that's how you'll understand how to be successful with your product. My name's Clint Sparks, guys. Thank you, everybody. Darren Yan. Give it up for Darren Yan.